Hello and welcome to another special episode of CG Innovate. Today we have with us a very special guest, Mr. Jayesh Surisetty. He's a gold medalist from IIM Raipur and has been involved with a lot of HR related corporate activities for over the years. He is the founder of Happea, India's first happiness and peace analysis and enablement app. He's also involved with various startups, for example, EdTech and esport startups. He's also involved with many NGOs which are related to mental health and are working towards striking a tech life balance. So, in a world where which is suffering from a lot of health issues, worsened even by the pandemic, the from opioid to corporate stress, it's a burning topic, and therefore the work Mr. Jayesh is doing is exceptionally important to the society. So, first of all, a warm welcome to you, sir. Thanks a lot for joining us at this platform, and we would be more than happy and delighted to know the story behind Happea and how this happened and why is it so important.
Thanks, Harshad and Team CG Innovate for having me on your platform. It's a pleasure to be here. So I'll just give a little background of Happy and how we started to think about the idea on these lines. So recently, I think there has been a report or the World Happiness Report which has come out that says that India ranks 139 out of 149 countries, right? And this is not a new thing. This has been the trend over the last decade or even longer, that India ranks in the late 130s, early 140s out of a 150 odd country panel. So the question that was posed in front of us was that how is it that a country that is the spiritual capital of the world, that preaches happiness, that preaches inner peace, spirituality to the entire world, uh, ranks so low in the metric, or you can take any global index for that matter. India ranks very low. So I think the burning question at that point was that how is this even possible? So when we looked at it in a little more depth, the understanding that we had was that the measurement or the analysis of happiness at a national level is done purely at a nationwide consequence, as opposed to an aggregate of individual happiness and peace. So the focus is not on whether people are happy. The focus was whether there are conditions which have been decided by a few people sitting in a room, and whether those conditions are being met in those countries. So, for example, what are the working hours? Now, naturally, there is no guarantee that if you are working for 8 hours or less, you are going to be happy, right? And there is no guarantee at the same time that even if you're working for 10 hours, 11 hours, 12 hours, which like most of us entrepreneurs do, we would not be happy. But still, when you go ahead and measure these global indexes, you see that people classify a country based on what are the working hours there. Similarly, there are many such examples in which, in what I would like to call macro social factors, that if the conditions of being happy, quote unquote, are being met, then that country's people are happy, which I think is a flawed methodology because it does not focus enough on individual peace and happiness, which is how we came up with Happea, which measures peace and happiness at an individual level. So at Happy, what we have done is that we have divided the entire population into 5 age groups. So kids, teens, young adults, adults, and seniors. These are 5 age groups. Now, our understanding is that each of these age groups have a variety of factors that drive happiness and peace among these people. So, for example, when we talk about seniors, the well being or prosperity of their progeny or their coming generations is very important. So, you see things or observe things like हमने अपने generations के लिए क्या छोड़ा है, etc., etc., right? Whereas for kids and teens, it may be possible that simple things like toys or schools or the amount of burden that studies put on them might make them happy or unhappy, right? So we've divided the population into age groups, and we've delineated based on our discussion with the panel of experts. We've identified a set of factors for each age group, right? And then we've worked out a questionnaire style methodology where people self report their understanding of situation judgment questions. So I will not ask you whether you are happy or not. I'll put you in a situation that, for example, I put a question to a kid that, let's say your grandparent or grandfather or grandmother has come to your house and they want to watch a serial at the same time as you want to watch your cartoon. What do you do? And we give them four options which are situational options. So maybe something like, they are here for a short period of time, I am okay with them watching it, and then I can watch it later on. Or why should I compromise? Why should I not watch it? Let them adjust, right? These are the kind of options that we give, and based on their responses we generate a score out of a 500 point scale. So the higher the score, the happier the person is, right? And that's how happy functions at an individual level. And then it does not just stop here. This is just the starting point. Here onwards there are tasks, events, activities which help people raise their happy index, right? And that's how happy operates at an individual level. So when we aggregate the happiness indices of, or happiness scores of people at a district level, we come up with a district level score. When we aggregate this at a state level, we come up with a state level happiness index. When we do it at a national level, we come up with a national happiness index or an India happiness index. So this way, we want to democratize the whole process of measurement of happiness and peace across the globe, right? And this is completely agnostic to the standard of living. This is completely agnostic. You just need to know how to use a smartphone.
Oh, thanks a lot. So that's a radically different way of approaching happiness and its measurement. So I'm sure a lot of us will explore Happy and see how it functions and try to make best use of the application, which is developed right from the state of Chhattisgarh. So thanks a lot, sir, on shedding light on this. Uh, the other thing I would do, like to ask you is that since you not only you are an entrepreneur, you're also involved in with the many startups,
Right.
be it in tech, esports, and others. So my question to you: how do you see the ecosystem of Chhattisgarh? How do you see the growth momentum? First, and second is, what would be your advice to potential entrepreneurs of the state?
Okay, so I think despite the fact that we were one of the early movers in the entrepreneurial scene as far as the government-induced incubation is concerned. So, for example, 36 INC, which is the state incubation center, was one of the earliest movers into this startup scene. But I still feel that it's a very nascent ecosystem as far as startups are concerned. For example, I've seen a lot of startups in Chhattisgarh which have the caliber to compete at a national level and very comfortably do so. The problem is that they have to do it independently. Whereas if I compare the scene with some states which are more mature or which have a more developed ecosystem, maybe something like a Telangana or Kerala or Rajasthan or Maharashtra for that matter, these states have created a fantastic ecosystem. Karnataka, again, a great example. So these states have created an ecosystem which encourages startups to not just come out and create a lot of ventures, create a lot of innovation, but it also creates a lot of benefit for the state in terms of jobs being created locally. So I think that is something that we are still struggling at. We came early, but then we've not grown at a pace which is fit for a startup, right? We've grown at a very slow pace. So that's one part of it. So from an entrepreneur's point of view, I think as far as Chhattisgarh's entrepreneurs are concerned, we are still a little shy or a little apprehensive with coming forward with our ideas, right? So our risk-taking appetite is a little lesser. We still come from that typical middle class mentality where we need jobs after education to be a little more secure, right? We see a lot of people going out from Chhattisgarh to colleges of different states, institutes of different states. They excel there, they get into jobs, and then they stay in jobs. But this is surprising given the fact that Chhattisgarh, especially the urban centers of Chhattisgarh, especially Raipur, Bilaspur, so on and so forth, these are all business heavy states. These are not states, these are business heavy cities. These are not cities that have a lot of working population. You find the working population of Chhattisgarh in smaller towns like Bhilai, where there is Bhilai steel plant, Durg, etc., etc. So, given that we already have a lot of people in the previous generations who have taken the risk of building their own businesses, I feel that the younger generation of Chhattisgarh can still take up a bit more risk than they have and start giving out more ideas, start pitching out more ideas. At the same time, if they are provided with an ecosystem, then I think it would help them also give direction to their risk appetite. So, as far as the startup ecosystem is concerned, I think we need to work a little more, maybe include a lot more entrepreneurs in this formative exercise. So, if you have a body which creates the ecosystem, you cannot have that body without actually engaging the entrepreneurs who are keen towards developing this ecosystem, right? It cannot be a network of people who are appointed from the government side, or it cannot be people who are appointed based purely on their pedigree. They have experience in the corporate sector, but they are not entrepreneurs. So I don't think the ecosystem will develop at the pace that it requires to do so.
Yeah. Oh, thanks a lot. So that's fabulous points that in the ecosystem of Chhattisgarh, the entrepreneurial ecosystem of Chhattisgarh lacks perhaps the key stakeholders which should be included, that the existing entrepreneurs who would benefit out of the rise in the entire ecosystem, right? And the second point that you said was also in fact like very crisp, that there has to be also a change in mindset of people
Absolutely.
towards more risk appetite. Otherwise, this would be the sluggish growth would perhaps persist. Now, on the front of the last the question on this front would be, what is there, of course there are variety of ways in which entrepreneurs can approach, but the budding, the new generation one, do you recommend them to be technology intensive from the day one, or do you think that is the way the mega opportunities lies, and perhaps more successfully so?
Um, okay, so I'll give a bit of context before I give this answer. So I myself am not an engineer by qualification, right? So but I am building a business which revolves around technology. So my first submission is that you don't need to be an engineer to build a business around technology. That's point number one. Point number two, the key difference between a traditional business and a startup is the pace at which a startup grows. So if you are a traditional business, even if let's say you open up a shop somewhere in your colony, you are opening up a business, but you cannot expect that shop to grow at the same pace as a startup, right? It won't be a startup. So if you want to grow at a pace which can give you 10x returns, 20x returns, so on and so forth, you would need to have a tech based intervention in the model, if not a tech based product itself. So that's the second point, that technology, insofar as the business model is concerned or startups are concerned, it has become a necessary requirement. You don't need to be a tech expert. The idea is still at the center of the business. But if you want to grow at a great pace, if you want to reduce your costs, and if you want to make it a better operational model, I think tech is absolutely necessary. That's the second thing. Third, I think one of the great examples that I have is maybe Mark Cuban. So I'm not sure if everybody has heard of him, but Mark Cuban is the owner of Dallas Mavericks, right, which is one of the biggest sports franchises in the world, right? He is not a tech guy by qualification, but he reads like crazy. So what he does is he is going to read maybe 2 hours a day, 3 hours a day about what is the tech development of that particular scene. So my submission to everybody is that if you can be updated about technology enough that nobody can fool you with or nobody can catch you unaware as far as that particular technology development is concerned. For example, artificial intelligence. I am not an artificial intelligence specialist by qualification, but I know about it enough that I can hold a conversation. I can always hire an expert to build me that solution, right? But if I have an idea and I know that artificial intelligence can help me implement that idea in a particular manner, my job is done, right? So as far as technology intensiveness is concerned, if you are aware about the recent developments, if you are in the know of things, and if you have the sense to get your business specialized using technology, I think you're sorted, right? So as far as tech is concerned, that's how it is. Maybe as far as approaching the business is concerned, my key advice to people would be that if you are in this for the glamour, don't get into starting up a venture. It's going to be a tough job, right? This is a 24/7 365 job. You don't have the luxury of getting a sure short paycheck at every month. You don't have the luxury of having a boss you can blame if the work is not being done, right? So this is a full time job. Don't get into it for the sake of glamour. Get into it if you are sure that you see a problem that you can solve, if you think that you can partner with the right people to solve that problem, and if you are confident that you can bring something to the table that other people cannot. So if you can meet one of these three or two of these three criteria, I think you are sorted as far as a startup is concerned.
Thanks a lot, sir. Very powerful and insightful advices to the potential entrepreneurs. One of that would be yes, and don't jump into it for glamour. That's for sure because it's a name that has got the popular zeitgeist. People are they're more attached to the idea of being an entrepreneur
Right.
than the task of being an entrepreneur itself. Thanks a lot, sir, for that. And the second one was to have a startup that's technology serves as the core function today. If you want to scale rapidly, there's no alternative perhaps to technology. That has to be the core facilitator to the business. Thanks a lot, sir. I think these are fantastic advices from your end. Very clear as well on the policy, on personal level as well as on the futurist angle. On every part. Thanks a lot for sharing such crisp insights. Or so do you have something
Okay, sir.
like you would like to pitch in?
Yeah, I just
Any,
had something, right. So, I just wanted to talk about one initiative that we have just launched on the 15th of August. So, I think maybe I can give a flavor of the state and the country level thing.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
so I'll start from here after I give a pause so that you can edit it properly. Right. Great. So I think from the point of view of Happy, one thing that we've started recently, and that is our attempt to kind of give a homage or give a tribute to the nation, is that on this 15th of August, we have launched India Happiness Index. Right. So as I was talking about the democratization of the measurement of happiness and peace, what we want to do is that we want to interview somewhere close to 1 lakh people across the country, right? And we want to launch the score of India on happiness and peace parameters. Um, is there some disturbance that I can hear?
Okay, yeah. Uh, yeah, maybe so you can just
I'll
last
start
year.
again. I'll start again. I'll start again. Sure. Yeah, so there is one initiative that we have recently launched, which I think is our tribute to the country, and maybe a case study as to the validity of India's strength across the globe as far as happiness and peace is concerned. So we this 15th of August, this we have launched India Happiness Index, where we want to interview somewhere around 1 lakh people across the country to assess their individual level happy scores, which are happiness and peace scores, right? And what we want to do is that we want to launch an aggregate of these scores as the index of happiness and peace in India uh, on the 26th of January 2022, right? So the idea behind this is that we have been sharing on different platforms that as the spiritual leader, as the happiness leader of the world, India needs to consolidate its position globally, right? And India Happiness Index will help showcase to the world that, look, as far as scientific and expert approved methodology of measuring happiness is concerned, India ranks X out of the 500 point scale, which is very high, right? So we want to do this across 1 lakh people from different states, different age groups, and on the occasion of 73rd Republic Day of India, we want to launch the report. The individual report would be available to the users as soon as they take the test on the Happy app, which is available on Google Play. And when we have the data from all these 1 lakh people, we will release district wise, state wise, and an India wide score on the 26th of January 2022. So yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about.
Oh, thanks a lot for that. So perhaps a very important piece of research, which will definitely help policymakers moving forward. And I think not only in India. Once this gathers momentum, perhaps this will also have a global repercussions, ripples as well. So thanks a lot for sharing that. And people who are watching, I would also request you to take the happiness test so that we have the scale, then the scores ready beforehand. So yes, thanks a lot. That's a fantastic initiative, and it was simply great to speak with you. The interaction was full of insights for the entrepreneurs, for the young people of the state, as well as for the policymakers. It was a true delight to have you with us. Thanks a lot for coming to CG Innovate. And for all the viewers, I hope everyone would at least try the Happy app and try to measure your happiness as well.
Thanks, Asha. Thanks for having me.
Thanks a lot.